You struggle staying consistent with your routines and always feel like you're starting over. This can feel really discouraging, but it doesn't have to. So, today we're talking about what to do when you're struggling to stick to a system or routine.
Are you ready to stop the chaos, the stress, the overwhelm that's filling your life? I'm Renee Matt, and together you and I are going to build simple routines that are going to change your life. When you put these habits into practice, you're going to be able to organize your life in a way where you can be there for your family, pay off your debt, save money, your house can stay organized, you don't have to stress about what's for dinner, and you still get time for yourself. So without further ado, let's get started. Welcome to the Routine Advantage Podcast.
The big thing to remember here is that we are all human. And when we're talking about putting routines in place, I'm always talking about the five foundational routines. And while I think they are amazing at making you feel more organized and giving you some structure and keeping it flexible so that you can live your life while still feeling in control of these five areas, you always have to remember that it's still not going to be perfect. Life is not perfect. Everything does not flow perfectly smoothly. Plans do change. And just because we create these plans and we create these routines and we put these systems into our life, it doesn't mean that everything is going to flow smoothly for the rest of our lives. We are going to run into some hardships. We're going to run into some failures, and that's okay. Just because something is really hard to stick to does not mean that you are failing in any way. You just need to look at it with a different mindset. I think one of the hard things about having this podcast is that a lot of people will look at what I'm saying and think that everything that I talk about, I do perfectly and I have it all together and everything goes smoothly. And if you can't stick to these routines, then something's wrong with you. And that is not the case. These routines that I talk about are part of this podcast. And I have built this podcast around these routines because they have helped me, because this is something I do struggle with. One of the biggest reasons that routines are a huge part of my life is because it builds the structure that I need to try to be consistent with the goals that I want to reach, but I also need them to be flexible and I also need to focus on the consistency over perfection. And that's really hard for me because I definitely focus on perfection and it has taken many, many years for me to step back and be okay with messy progress. And that is something that you have to work really hard on. So I want to encourage you that when you put a routine or a system or a habit into place and it doesn't go perfectly, it's completely normal. But we do have to look at it because we still want the success of having a good routine in place and we want to be able to maintain it long term. Even though it's not perfect day to day, we can still build something that is long term. So having the plan in place is going to make a huge difference in just knowing what to fall back on when life does get busy because we want our routines to be something that can support our busy lives, that can support and give us the foundation and the framework that we need to lean on when we are really busy, when we're overwhelmed. When we can fall back on these routines, it's going to make our lives easier. We don't want them to stress us out more. They should actually be what gives us the leg to stand on so that we can actually move forward and it pulls us out of that overwhelm. So we want to make sure that what routines that we have are actually working for us and then we can focus on the long-term success rather than the day-to-day because if we just focus solely on day-to-day, we're going to feel more like we're failing because things are not going to go perfectly, but I want you to remember that that's okay. So, today I have 9 tips for when your routines feel hard. And this goes for habits, routines, full home management systems, whatever you have in place. When it is feeling hard and you are having a hard time staying consistent, these 9 tips are going to be for you. So, number one, you need to know that your routine is working for you. And if you need to go back and understand what I'm talking about when I'm talking about this, I have an episode that I just recently released. It's episode 204, and it is 4 signs a routine is no longer working and what to do about it. So that is number one is you need to understand if your routine is actually working for you. It's not just built because it's a random routine that works for some people, but you want to make sure that it's actually customized to your life and it's something that can actually benefit your life and it doesn't stress you out more to have that routine in place. So, like I said, we want these routines to support us and help pull us out of the overwhelm, not put us into overwhelm. Tip number two is to make sure your routine aligns with your personal priorities. So, not only is it built to fit your life, but it's also supporting your priorities. So, if your priority is to make sure that your family has a home cooked meal 5+ nights a week, then you're going to want to make sure that you have a really solid meal planning routine in place that is going to make this process super easy for you. You don't want this to stress you out. So, we need to build you a meal planning routine that supports this priority of yours and helps you to create home cooked meals that are going to be beneficial and it's not going to stress you out. You're going to have a plan in place. You're going to stick to, that one weekly grocery shopping trip so that it makes it really easy. You're going to focus on what you need to prep to make the rest of the week flow smoothly and all of those little details because that is your personal priority. If it is your personal priority to get out of debt, then we need to build you a budget routine that is going to support that goal and help you get out of debt. So you need to make sure that whatever routine you put in place is focused on your personal priorities. If you want to make sure that you have your weekends back for spending time with family or doing some activity or adventure that is important to you because you need that freedom, then you're going to need to put a home routine in place that is allowing you to get those things done throughout the week so that you can maintain a tidy home without having to spend all weekend focusing on catching up on laundry and trying to do a big deep clean that takes up half your weekend. So that is why we put these routines in place is because they are working for your life and they're supporting your personal priorities on what is actually important to you. Tip number three is to keep it simple and start small. And when I say this, I mean like incredibly small and simple. If you are having a hard time sticking to a consistent routine, it's probably because it's too complicated or it's too long. We need to keep them really, really simple and short and easy so that we can actually maintain it long term. If we have it too complicated and too chaotic, we're not going to stick to it because it's going to feel too overwhelming and we're going to give up on it. But if we can keep it super simple and it just becomes more automatic, it builds into our life and we can do it with very little time, it's going to be easier to stick to it. And if you want to grow it later on, then great, do that, but don't do that right away. Make sure you start small and probably even smaller than you think that you need to. If you're like, I can do this because I'll just make it work. No, like, don't do that. If you feel like you have to make it work, then it's probably a little too long. Simplify it a little bit more. My daily 7 home routine, I could probably put on 20 different things that I would like to have done every day, but I know if I put 20 things on my list of things to do every day, I'm not going to get them done. And I will skip my daily 7 home routine all the time because it's going to feel too overwhelming. So I had to pare it down and I went down to 7. So 7 tasks are your max to build your daily 7 home routine. And when you do this, you know that it's going to be super short and I can completely reset my home for these 7 tasks in 30 minutes or less because that is a short routine that I know I can stick to. And when I'm done with it, it's going to feel good. I know that our house is going to feel reset and tidy. It's going to be company ready. It might not be fully deep cleaned, but that's okay. It's going to feel good. And then once I'm done with that, I can choose to do additional tasks if I want to and if I have time, but it's not part of my reset routine. So that is going to be super important is to make sure that you are keeping it simple and you are keeping it small and you can build later, but start small. But because that is what is going to make you feel like you can actually stick to it long term and that's going to build the consistency over time. Number 4 is to pair your routine or habit with something you're already doing to make it easier or focus on a trigger task. So this kind of goes one or two way or two different ways, I guess, is that if it is something simple like a habit or a routine, like say you get up in the morning, and I'm trying to think of an example here because I don't have anything written down here, but if you have a habit of getting up in the morning and you go to make your coffee every morning and then you just kind of sit there and scroll your phone while you're waiting for the coffee to brew. Instead, if there is something that you want to be doing, don't waste your time scrolling. Find out what you can do in the morning right away when you are brewing your coffee. So, if you're brewing your coffee and you have a tendency to scroll, put your phone down and choose something else that is going to benefit your life in a different way of what you're trying to accomplish. So, this could be anything from taking some time to stretch or do some squats. If you need some movement, you need to kind of hype yourself up in the morning, then do that. If you need to sit down and look at your plan for the day, make sure that you feel prepared for the day, then maybe that's a good time to do it. If you like to reset your kitchen and you ran your dishwasher overnight and you need to take a look at that and unload your dishwasher so it's set for the morning, then maybe that is the time that you unload your dishwasher. If you like to have a load of laundry ready to go, maybe while your coffee is brewing, you get it on and you go down and you start the first load of laundry and then come back to your coffee to pour your coffee. You can start building a new habit or routine by just simply pairing it with something you're already doing consistently. And if you are consistently making coffee, then that is a great thing to pair with it. Now, if you are not having a specific habit that you're already doing consistently, but you're trying to build in a routine and trying to be consistent with that, the other alternative is a trigger task. And this is where you build your routine and it may not be butting up against something else, but it is a routine that has been built. And now you know the very first task that you need to do in that routine. That is called your trigger task. So you don't have to look at the whole routine. You just need to focus on the first thing you need to do. And that will launch you into your full routine. So if this is an aspect for you, so if you're looking at maybe your meal planning routine, you know that the first thing you need to do is just scan your freezer, fridge, and pantry to see what you have that you could build meals with without having to purchase more food, and grab your, paper or your phone if you do notes in there or anything like that. And all of a sudden, like that is your trigger task to launch you into your meal planning routine. That's going to give you a good baseline of what you have. You can choose meals from your list for all your dinners. You can pick one or two breakfasts, one or two lunches. You've got your plan built, and now all you have to do is grab your phone and start going through the list and plugging in all of what you need that you don't already have for ingredients. You sort your list, and you now have a full organized grocery list. And then when you have time, you go to the grocery store, you buy everything you need for the week, you get home, you prep your veggies, make sure they're all cleaned and chopped and everything and is ready to go, plug it into your fridge, and now you are set to go for the week. All your veggies are prepped. It's going to make making dinner, making meals so incredibly easy. And all you had to do was just focus first on looking at your freezer, fridge, and pantry because that's your trigger and then it will launch you into the rest. So that is a huge tip for what works well for me is just focusing on pairing it with a habit I already have in place or focusing on my trigger task. All right, number 5 is to use a mindset of curiosity over perfection. If you find that you are struggling to stick to a routine, don't focus on the failure piece. Don't focus on having that perfect streak that you're losing and you missed a day and now you feel terrible. Don't focus on that. Instead, focus on consistency over time and maybe ask yourself why you skipped that day. So if you are looking at having a consistent streak of your movement routine, for instance, and you've got a consistent streak and you've been taking your walks every day because your default movement is your walks, and you have another, say you want to go to the gym or do a workout, 3 times that week. and you've got your daily walks, that's going well, and then all of a sudden you miss a daily walk, and then the next day you skip your workout and you just focus on that, and then all of a sudden everything just feels like it falls to pieces, and now you have to start over next week. So the rest of the week is just down the drain and you don't even focus on it until the following week. Instead of focusing on that, instead, ask yourself, why did this happen? Was I too tired? Was I too busy? Did I not have a plan? Was I too focused and distracted on scrolling my phone that it didn't happen? Like, what is happening that made me miss it? And is that something that I can handle and I can change? Or was it just a bad day and I just need to pick it up again tomorrow? Because that is something that we can look at. And if we're focusing on the curiosity portion of it instead of the failure portion of it, we can learn a lot about ourselves and our habits. I know for me, scrolling on my phone or just screen time in general, if I'm stuck on some books, like I listen to audiobooks a lot. If I'm stuck on some really good books, I know that I get really distracted because all I wanna do is listen to the books and find out what's happening, and that is what is distracting me, so then I end up kind of falling behind on certain things. So I know, because I look at this as a curiosity thing instead of a failure thing, I know that I can look at this, and instead of just judging myself, I know I can look at it and say, "Okay, what went wrong here?" And it's like, okay, I started my audiobook too early in the morning or too early in the evening, and I need to do XYZ before I even let myself listen to my audiobook because I know that's just going to pull me in. So it's like, okay, then that is something that I need to focus on, and I need to get these things done, and I'm going to have a better turnout than if I would just start listening to my audiobook when I felt like it. So that is something that you can look at, is what is actually causing the problem, and is it something that you can change to help you build more consistency over time? And when we don't focus on having that perfect streak, we actually become more consistent over time because we are focusing on the curiosity portion and learning more about our own habits. Number 6 is to track your progress. So this might feel counterintuitive when I say don't focus on a perfect streak, but track your progress. This is meaning that when we focus on our habits over time, it makes it easier to stay consistent long term. So one of the things I love doing is using my an app called Day Stamp, and it's a habit tracker. You can find all sorts of habit trackers, but this one I really love using because it just makes it really easy and you can see full reports and all sorts of stuff. I also track in my paper planner, but I'm not as consistent in there because I'm not updating my habits in there as much because I focus more on doing it in my app. So I would recommend you choose one or the other. Doing two is kind of annoying and hard, and that's why I don't keep up with it consistently in my paper planner because I'm doing it in my app and that works better for me. I just like the visual of seeing it in the paper planner. So, every how long I just go in there and update it I just go back and update it, and it's probably a waste of time. But what I like doing is having it in my app and I just track it. So every night before I go to bed, I just update all of my habits and I click which ones I completed that day. And then instead of focusing on the failures, I can look at my habits over time because if I'm tracking my progress, I might feel like it's like, okay, I am really struggling. I feel like I am not great at working out and I'm skipping a lot of my workouts. But then I pull up my app and I look back at how many days I went to the gym, how many days I did a home workout, and how many days I took my walks, how many days I reached 10,000 steps. And I look at that and it's like, okay, like I actually didn't do too bad. Like I hit almost every goal I had. And even though it doesn't feel like it because I feel like I'm failing more, I look at that and I can see the progress that I've been making over time. I can see how it has changed over the course of how many months because I'm getting more consistent or I'm focusing on this habit over this habit, and it just makes a huge difference in how you feel. So if you have certain goals that you're trying to do, I highly 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 recommend tracking your habits, tracking your progress. If there is a routine that you want to consistently do, find a habit tracker that works for you, whether it's on paper, whether it's in an app, however you want to track it. Find something that works for you and track it. So if you want to be doing your daily 7 home routine, plug that into an app and or however you're tracking, plug it in and then track how often you're doing it. So every day before you go to bed, mark off everything that you did that day as far as what your goals are. So you obviously don't have to track every single thing you did, but say you are trying to be really consistent with your morning routine, you're trying to make sure you get a walk in every day, which would be your movement routine. You're trying to make sure that you do your daily 7 home routine and you want to hit a water goal. Like, say those are your big tracking, and maybe you have a goal to journal for 10 minutes every morning. So, say those are your habits. Before you go to bed at night, just check off the ones that you did and move to the next day. The next day is a new day, and you just keep doing it, and then look back over time and see how consistent you were. You might find that you were way more consistent than you feel like you were, or you might look at it and say, okay, I really struggle every Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Like, that seems to be the days that I really can't stay consistent with this. Then maybe on those days, you make things a little bit easier, or you tweak things, or you do it at a different time, or you're just okay with skipping, Wednesdays and Thursdays, and you move on to the Fridays and kind of reset everything. And just that works better for your life. You don't have to feel guilty about it. That's just what works best for you. So it's just a matter of tracking your progress and focusing on that curiosity that we already talked about and learning what works well for you and what you can do to make things easier on yourself. Tip number 7 is to find accountability. Now, this could be just tracking your progress and being accountable to yourself, and that might work really well for you. You might also find that you would prefer to have accountability with somebody that's living in your home that helps you to stay on track. Maybe it's not having it with somebody in your home and it's finding a friend or a family member or even a random accountability group of a stranger that you want to just kind of pair up and say, okay, let's help each other stay accountable. If you want to join our free Facebook community and find somebody in there that can help you be accountable to completing your 5 foundational routines each week, then maybe that is something that you focus on and you find somebody that you can do this with together. Just find a way that helps you to stay accountable, whether it's to yourself or to somebody else. Number 8 is to remember that you don't have to wait until Monday to start again. This one is huge, especially like I have been a yo-yo dieter for years, like most of my life. And I remember seeing this meme. I've talked about it on here before, but it's these little stick figures. And it's like, we're going to start a diet and we're starting it on Monday. And all these like little stick figures are cheering. And then one of them says, "Today is Monday," and you have all these sad faces, and then all of a sudden, they, like, fist pump their hand in the air and say, "Next Monday," and that is like, it's so funny to me because every time I think about, like, starting over, it's not starting over today or tomorrow, it's like, "Let's start on Monday, let's start on Monday," and Monday just seems to be the common thread there that we always feel like we're restarting on Monday, but when we can shift away from this, we do not have to start Mondays. We don't have to wait until Monday to start again. We can just pick it up either today, and if today feels too soon, start tomorrow. Like, it does not matter if it's a Tuesday, it doesn't matter if it's a Saturday, it doesn't matter if it is a Monday. Just start tomorrow and pick it back up. Just because you skip a day does not mean that you have failed. You can just do it again tomorrow. Skipping a day doesn't mean anything. It just means you're human and things aren't perfect, and that is okay. So, if you need a day off, take your day off and then start back again tomorrow. And then tip number 9 is to always remember that you can test and tweak whenever it is needed. So, when you are building a routine and you have a routine in place, and all of a sudden it's really hard to stick to, things are, being more complicated, it's not as flexible for your life, that is just an educational thing. Like, you can look at that and see what is working, what's not working, and just tweak it as you need to. Just because a routine is hard to stick to doesn't mean the whole thing necessarily needs to be scrapped. If it does, then you can make that decision and just get rid of the whole routine itself. But a lot of times, we just need to tweak a few things to make it work better for us. And you have 100% full permission to change and adjust your routines that you have built because you need them to support your life. So if something is not working, just think of it as a test run. Like, let yourself have test runs and then tweak something to make it easier to follow and easier to stay consistent with it. And if it's still not working, look at it again. Do you need to make additional adjustments? Like, find what works for you. And then once it's working, then that can become your consistent routine. And maybe it'll work really well for years. Maybe it'll only work really well for a few months. And then something changes in your life, and all of a sudden you have to make another adjustment. That's okay too. You can just keep making tweaks and keep making adjustments for different seasons of life. Just because your routine is changing does not mean it's failing. It just means it needs to make some adjustments. You're growing, you're changing, your life is changing. And sometimes our routines do need to change with it. So, just because it's not working doesn't mean you need to give up on the whole routine. You just might need to make some adjustments. So, I hope that this gives you some encouragement that if you are struggling to stick to a routine and they are feeling really hard, it's normal. It's totally normal, and every routine is not going to be perfect. I think no routine is going to be perfect because things will come up. Life goes on, life changes, and we need to have routines that are flexible enough to shift and mold with our lives. The important thing is that we have plans in place that we can fall back on these routines and they can help carry us through when we're feeling overwhelmed. They also need to adjust with us. So, having a structure that we can stick to, and then we can learn how to build the consistency so that we can stick to these long term, that is what is going to make a big difference rather than just focusing on having perfect routines all the time. So let me go back through those and do a really quick recap for you in case you missed any of them or want to write them down. Is these are the 9 tips for when routines feel hard. Is number 1, review your routine first to make sure it's actually working for you. So if you need to go back, go to episode 204, and that is 4 signs a routine is no longer working and what to do about it. Number 2, make sure your routine aligns with your personal priorities. Number 3, keep it simple and start small. Number 4, pair your routine with or habit with something that you are already doing or focus on the trigger task rather than the whole routine. Number 5, use a mindset of curiosity over perfection. It's not about having the perfect streak, it's about consistency over time. Tip number 6 is to track your progress. Tip number 7 is to find accountability, either in yourself or with someone else. Tip number 8, remember you do not have to wait until Monday to start again. And tip number 9 is to test and tweak as needed. It is okay if we need to make some adjustments. We aren't all about perfect routines. We're about routines that actually work for real life.
Did you love that episode or learn something useful? If so, would you do me a huge favor? My goal is to grow this podcast and help as many women as I can break free from the overwhelm so they can truly enjoy their life. The best way for me to do this is for you to leave a 5-star written review on your podcast app and to share this episode with a friend or in your Instagram stories. I appreciate you being here. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you on the next episode. Take care.